what would you say to kids that are interested in something like writing or art? What would you say to those kids? Because, you know, like the success rate, and we're fighting against the success rate too as artists, but what would you say to those kids that are like interested in trying to pursue that, but also like their parents or someone else is telling them like, you should be doing this instead. Like this isn't something that's sustainable. Because I have personally was really like affected by that. Cause like I never even thought to pursue anything in the arts because I thought that it was just a horrible idea. And that's what everyone tells you. Even in high school, elementary school, they're always like, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but the likelihood of your success is very slim and you could end up being homeless and on the streets.
Ideally, the best things to pursue is things that you would do as hobbies anyways, right? So it's like if you don't make a living off of what you're doing, like you still fuck with it, right? Like you still enjoy what you're doing. For me, like I'm going to play music. Like I might not become a successful artist. I 100% believe I'm capable of it, and I think I will. But let's say, this is something that I deal with a lot, is self-doubt and whether or not this is possible. First of all, I'm feeling good about the fact that I'm trying to do this. Like no matter what, having tried, I've succeeded. Like that was my goal, like to try to be an artist. Um, I set like realistic expectations, things I could meet, things I could do. But I think more than anything, it's like I like playing music. Like I'm going to play music. I'm never gonna stop playing music. I'm never gonna stop writing. I'm gonna continue doing that. There's not like a point where I'm gonna give up. Going back to what you were saying about like what would you tell a kid? The first thing is I think so many people feel this pressure. If you look at like prodigies, right? And you go, damn, they're so far ahead of me. Like I'm too old now. And I think you will say that every day of your life if you believe it, because you'll be 18 and you'll be like, I'm too old to skateboard now. This is something I told myself. I'm like, I'm not too old to learn how to skateboard. Like I skated a little bit as a kid, but I was like, ooh, I'm really jealous of all these skateboarders. And like I'm too old. I'm 18. I missed the thing, but I'm not even close to too old. And people always say that. You always look back at yourself 5 years ago and go, damn, I was so
every
young.
time
Every time.
you always look back and you always assume, or you always look back and you're like, why was I thinking that way? Or like, what was I thinking? 9 times out of 10. I think you could ask that to anyone and they'll do that.
Yeah. So getting ahead of the curve of like being like, start whenever. Just start whenever you feel like it. It's never too late. You can be a 60-year-old, you can be a 70-year-old. And it's funny because as you get older, like what's defined as old, right, is like very different. Like what's an adult? Like I remember freshman year of high school, I was playing football and I was looking at the seniors and I was like, damn, those guys are old. Right? I remember thinking that those guys are like, because my brother was a senior playing football and I was like, whoa, like he's like those guys got it figured out. Now I look at seniors in high school and I go, oh baby,
they're so young,
right? They're so young. Freshmen in college students are so young, and there's just a certain degree of like undergrad, and I feel like the way I feel about lower division students, so like freshmen and sophomores, I feel like I'm gonna feel that exact same way about upperclassmen in a couple of years, right? And there's just a certain degree of like, you're always gonna tell yourself that like, oh, I'm too old or it's too late to start something, but I mean the amount of like famous artists that started learning instruments in their 20s, like it's like shocking. And there's just a certain degree of like, do what you want to do. Don't be afraid to start it. I also think that like doing one thing is way less important than learning how to get better at stuff. Like the classic like learning to learn, almost cliche at this point, is like so important. I think that's where like school comes in. And I talked to like a really successful businessman when I was teaching preschool, because I was teaching in like northern Oakland, which is actually really bougie, and they were all like working in very successful companies in the city and in San Francisco and stuff like that. So I was like in the hills, and I remember talking to like one of my like favorite parents. He was just like awesome. He was super cool, but he studied business, and we were talking about like choosing majors in school, and he goes like, major just doesn't matter. Like going to school is so much less about practical application of knowledge, and it's so much more about learning how to learn. Heavy, 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 heavy.